Good evening. Will the Standing Committee on Public Accounts please come to order? Before we begin our business today, I'd like to inform the committee that we have received the following membership substitution for this meeting only. MLA Redhead for MLA Compton. I would also like to inform the committee that a resignation letter from Mr. Gunter as chairperson as a member of the committee was received. Mr. Gertzen is now the replacement PAC member for the remainder of this legislature, and therefore before the committee can proceed with the business before it, it must elect a new chairperson. Are there any nominations? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Wasco?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairperson, for the time being. I
Yes.
recommend MLA Gertzen to be the chair.
Mr. Gertzen has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, Mr. Gertzen, will you please take the chair? Blank. Cat.
Good job.
I've already hit.
Yeah, well done. Thank you to the chair, acting chair, former acting chair, and thank you to members of the committee. And I hope you bear with me as a rookie chairperson in the seat as we move through this process. One final housekeeping item, I'd like to table the following document responses from the Department of Housing, Addictions, and Homelessness to questions from the Standing Committee on Public Accounts meeting on May 26, 2025. The meeting has been called to consider the following reports: the Auditor General's report, Physicians Billing, dated January 2021, the Auditor General's report, Automatic Vehicle Location Management Systems, dated June 2021, the Auditor General's report, follow-up of previously issued recommendations, dated February 20, 2024, Physicians Billings, Automatic Vehicle Locations Management System, Auditor's General's report, follow-up of previously issued recommendations, dated February 2025, Physicians Billings. Are there any suggestions from the committee members as to how long we should sit this evening? MLA Malloway.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest we sit for an hour and then revisit at that time.
MLA Malloway has suggested that we sit for 1 hour and then revisit at this time. Is that acceptable to the committee? We will sit for 1 hour and then revisit at that time. In what order does the committee wish to consider the reports? Emily De La Cruz?
Chronological.
It's been suggested by Emily De La Cruz that we consider the reports in a chronological order. And for clarity of the committee, that would be the physician's report first, followed by the report on VEMA. Is that agreed? It is agreed and so ordered. So at this time, I'll ask the committee if there is leave for all the witnesses who are in attendance this evening to speak and answer questions on the record if desired. Is that agreed? It's been agreed to by the committee. I'd like to remind everyone that questions and comments must be put through the chair using third-person vernacular as opposed to directly to members and witnesses. Before we proceed, I'd like to inform all in attendance of the process that is undertaken with regards to outstanding questions. At the end of every meeting, the research clerk duly and dutifully reviews the Hansard for any outstanding questions that the witness commits to provide an answer to at a future time, and will draft a questions pending response document to send to the Deputy Minister of the Department or other witnesses. Upon receipt of the answers to those questions, the research clerk then forwards the responses to every PAC member and to every other member recorded as attending that meeting. We will now consider the report and chapters on physicians billing. Does the Auditor General wish to make an opening statement? Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to introduce a staff member I have with me today with respect to this report. I'm joined by James Wright, who is the engagement leader on this on this particular report. Mr. Chair, this report was initially discussed by the committee in June of 2022, and I had provided some comments at that time. Since then, my office has issued 2 follow-up reports related to this report, one in February of 2024 and most recently in March 2025. As of our last follow-up, 5 of the 6 recommendations included in the report had been implemented or resolved. The one recommendation still in progress relates to publishing the results of physician audits. I'd like to thank everyone for their cooperation and assistance during the audit, and I'd also like to thank my audit team for their due diligence and hard work in completing the report, as I look forward to the discussion on the report today.
Committee thanks the Auditor General for the opening statement. Does the Secretary to Treasury Board wish to make an opening statement? And if so, would you please introduce your staff?
Good evening, it's Anne Ulusoy, Secretary to Treasury Board. I would like to thank the committee for the opportunity to provide brief comments on the matters under consideration today. I'd like to introduce my colleagues. Sitting at the table with me are Brenda Feng, Provincial Controller, Sean Savage, Executive Director of Fleet Management Services, acting on behalf of Brenda De Serrano, Deputy Minister of Public Service Delivery, and Ann Liebfried, Assistant Deputy Minister and Executive Financial Officer for Manitoba Finance, acting on behalf of Matt Weeb, Acting Deputy Minister of Finance. Both reports have been heard before, so I would like to just wrap it up by saying Treasury Board Secretariat welcomes the Auditor General's reports and recommendations, and we're committed to continuing consideration to completing the outstanding recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary to Treasury Board, and thank you for the staff for joining us and for your work on this particular report. The floor is now open for questions from committee members. I might pose a question then, use the chair's prerogative as we wait members to form other questions. In terms of looking back retrospectively, what perspective does Treasury Board have on the improvement of compliance when it comes to the billing for physicians, recognizing it's probably about $1 billion that is billed a year? There are some complex billing issues, but most are probably routine. Would it be your perspective from Treasury Board that it has improved in terms of compliance since this issue was first brought to light, at least publicly, by the Auditor General? Sorry, this is an error of a rookie chair. So I'm going to have to recognize you first. So Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Improvements we can see. We had this kind of standardized training, okay, to
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Okay. This audit was prepared and finalized when the auditing function was under the Department of Health, Seniors, and Long-Term Care. Subsequent to the audit function has moved to Treasury Board Secretary under the Department of Finance for arm's length ability to audit the physicians without, interfering with functioning of the insured benefits function. After the transfer to TBS, the Internal Audit Department, a group under the Internal Audit Department, has implemented risk-based audits. So rather than random sampling, now risk-based audits based on the number of patients seen, the days that are billed, that are holidays, and other examples like that, where the likelihood of the billings are questionable, are picked and looked at. There has been some legislative changes back in 2021 and 2022 as well. The Regional Health Authorities Amendment Act was proclaimed in force, and it included amendments to Health Services Insurance Act that enforces audit and oversight functions. The Act clarified the authority of inspectors to audit claims submitted by the fee-for-service professionals, confirmed the minister's authority to make a determination of overpayment based on audit results, and established that physicians may refer the overpayment to the dispute resolution mechanism under the master agreement with Drs. Manitoba, and minister may recover overpayments through agreement, including by set-off against the future revenues. Previously, the province did not have that ability. Also, the Act requires practitioners to retain documentation specified by the regulation. Since then, a high number of audits were initiated and completed, and the findings have been significantly higher than the previous arrangement prior to the Act. That's my general comments.
Thank you for the response. I'll do a follow-up and then turn over to my colleagues. And forgive me sometimes because it's difficult to hear in the chamber, which sometimes can be called an echo chamber. But in terms of where there are overbillings or maybe inappropriate billings, it would be my assumption that the vast majority of them would be some administrative error or certainly not anything intentional. But in those cases where there are overbillings, what is the success in retrieving the funds? Have we seen a significant improvement on that in the last couple of years? Secretary to the Treasury.
We have concluded, first of all, the type of overbillings are due to three reasons. One is administrative errors or lack of clarity on the tariff. Secondly, it's interpretation of what the tariff covers, which may change from physician to physician. And thirdly, it may be on bad faith. So an error does not necessarily mean there's a problem with the issue, and we find that majority of the errors are in the first two categories. The numbers are very high. We have approximately over 3,000 practitioners or doctors billing the Manitoba Health, and the number of claims are more than 35 million claims per year. So each transaction is a claim. We were able to audit 128 physicians, and a physician audit, the number may seem small, but a physician audit consists of hundreds of billings that take place over a number of months. So it could be a very high number. And we have, out of the 128, we have preliminary findings on 82 of them, and final findings on 64 of them. All but one has been recovered. The only one that has not recovered is one that's under arbitration right now.
Thank you for that response. Emily De La Cruz.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and congratulations. I understand that we have the honor of all being at the first committee meeting that the member is able to chair. So I think that's pretty special for each of us sitting here. But I'd also like to thank those who have taken the time to prepare for this meeting and to spend time with us here today and opening themselves up to questions from us. Kind of building off of the last question from our honorable chairperson, I'm wondering if the secretary can maybe elaborate on any trends in these administrative errors that they may have found.
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Any findings with respect to lack of clarity or of the billing codes is referred back to the Department of Health to clarify and issue guidance and correct in the next round of collective agreements. So those go back. Goes back to Department of Health for correction and clarity. With respect to I'm just gonna request a minute. The most overwhelming, overriding trend is the interpretation errors and lack of good documentation, which makes it very difficult for the audit unit to get the information. It extends the time period for the audits.
Any further follow-up, Emily De La Cruz?
Follow up on a slightly different tangent, and thank you for your response. I have a lot of family who work on the front lines of healthcare and understand that, there's a number of things that they've got to juggle at a single time. It's a matter of figuring out exactly how we mitigate things like that in the future, where because of a misunderstanding or misinterpretation, we end up with nearly $1 billion that we've got to recover. So. On recommendation 3 in particular, and given that the Office of the Provincial's Comptroller, their agreement with recommendation 3 to publish physician audit results, and its acknowledgement as well that quote unquote consideration will be given to the appropriate level of disclosure necessary to ensure public accountability and transparency is balanced with the protection of the privacy of the physician and the physician's practice. And any non-disclosure clauses as a result of the arbitration process. What specific concrete steps have been taken since the report's release in January 2021 to address and finalize these considerations regarding the appropriate level of disclosure?
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Okay. First of all, the department is not looking at disclosing the names or the case details that may make the individual physicians identifiable. As I mentioned, a lot of the findings are interpretation errors or honest billing mistakes, so that's not something that the department is looking at doing. In order to look at what the other provinces are reporting, we engaged in consultations with health representatives and legal services branch in justice. And we have focused on the nature, type, and level of detail permissible under the current legislation, current collective agreements, and potential impact on relationships with the physician community and their representative bodies. We have performed a jurisdictional scan and stakeholder consultation. We have looked at British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario. These jurisdictions, we found, vary in their approaches. Some only disclose audit results when only legally required. They do not voluntarily disclose it. Others release anonymized information for audits with significant findings only. Not everything, but significant findings only. And some publish annually summarized anonymous results like total of number of audits and total findings and total of hours and funds recovered. So finance acknowledges that the level of transparency expected by the public needs to be aligned with the privacy concerns of the physicians and the sensitivities of the relationship with Drs. Manitoba. So finance is carefully considering how to balance these competing interests. We are looking at finalizing our consultations and starting public disclosure by 26-27 fiscal year.
MLA Owasco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the Secretary of the Treasury Board. Thank you for those answers. I think you checked off the boxes for a few other additional questions. But beyond public disclosure, the response also noted that the value of communicating audit findings, so profession-wide for educational purposes as well. What specific mechanisms or strategies are being developed to disseminate these educational insights to physicians across the province, even as the broader public disclosure framework for audit results is being finalized? And I do understand in your previous answer that you've also have sought that legal advice, plus also have spoken to physicians and also Doctors Manitoba. So with that being considered.
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Okay. Beyond the public disclosure, it's really important that our findings are profession-wide distributed for education purposes, so a broader group of physicians do not repeat the same administrative errors or billing interpretation. So we have a number of existing and new mechanisms for that. Existing mechanisms include the publicly available Manitoba Physicians Manual, which contains detailed tariff descriptions, rules of application, and contact information for physicians and their administrative staff. And a careful read of the information in Manitoba Physicians Manual is a lot of guidance for billing physicians. Manitoba Physicians Manual is updated with the collective agreements and new information that points to lack of clarity. The Claims Processing Solution website is a website that provides up-to-date resources such as billing information for health providers, billing bulletins, frequently asked questions, and direct contact information for support. And this is an easier venue for us to clarify items that have not been clear before. These tools ensure physicians have access to the information needed to bill accurately and in accordance with the provincial requirements. We have a Joint Physician Services Agreement Committee. This committee comprises of representatives from Drs. Manitoba and Department of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care. This group plays a key role in the ongoing modernization of the Manitoba Physicians Manual, and by consensus, they recommend updates to tariff descriptions and billing rules. So the information and the findings from the audits are forwarded to the Joint Physician Services Agreement Committee for consideration and discussion, and presumably a consensus and an update. Individual audits have educational value. A lot of the physicians use the same billing companies, and once there's a finding that points to an administrative error or clarification of the intent of the tariff, typically the billing companies adjust their practices to other physicians as well. And I trust that physicians also are sharing the audit experiences with their colleagues within their clinics, creating informal peer-to-peer learning opportunities that support the profession-wide information dissemination. And as a future strategy, this is something we have not started yet. We would like to consider sharing the publication of anonymized summarized audit findings on the internet and intranet platforms with respect to communicating the information to a broader base of physicians, but that final one has not been actioned yet. Thank you.
Follow-up question, Emily Wasco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to the Secretary Treasurer, or Secretary to the Treasury. So in regards to the billings made by, the overbillings or whatever by any, on the recommendation number 3, as we've seen over the last few years, and I believe the Secretary has answered a bit of this, but as we continue to see the numbers hopefully start to get in more of an align where there's not so many out of practice type of billings, I guess, what it would be the timeline on that, and how would the health department be reporting back to the public without necessarily disclosing the physicians that are actually, and I'm gonna call it an infraction, but I don't really mean infraction because we know that at times these billings happen inadvertently. So what would be the timeline on that? I know earlier your timeline, seeing how the implementation of publishing physician audit results would be 26, 27. Do you see this being a yearly report from the Department of Health as far as, here's the total amount of billings throughout the year, and this is how many we're trying to recoup, and this is how much we have recouped? Hopefully that's concise enough.
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
So he wants to know, are we gonna actually have that information? Like, for example, there's 1.3 billion actual, right? How much actually is including the findings, and then how will that become annual process reporting back to this? Like I put the dollar in.
I'm sorry, we're gonna get you to start again because it didn't sound like your mic was on. So we'll indicate that the Secretary to the Treasury Board has the floor, and we'll make sure your audio is working. Proceed.
Thank you.
That was a
Thank you.
practice run for you.
Thank you. So the 26-27 timeframe is for a summary reporting that is yet to be decided and framed by the legal advice and the issues that I have identified as under consideration. And it will be a high-level report that doesn't include numbers or names of the physicians. With respect to the actual findings, Financial Administration Act have been changed in 2022 and established a Treasury Board Audit Committee, which is an independent committee made up of independent members as well as public service members that provide oversight to internal audit function as well as the particular unit that is under internal unit and that audits the doctor's billings. The reports are regularly reported to TBAC, Treasury Board Audit Committee, and regular reports go to the Treasury Board for updates on a less frequent basis. But again, due to the public nature of this committee, we have not planned to report back any particulars to Public Accounts Committee at this time.
Emily Malloway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm making an assumption here that prior to the province bringing in the SAP system as its ERP back in the 90s, that we're all on paper, right? So the government would be getting its billings from the physicians' offices, and there would be paper, and there'd be mountains of paper, and there would probably be a lot of, missing money, or it would be a big problem. What we did find out when we brought in the SAP system was we had an example of a person well-known in this town who owed PST to the provincial government, but was getting business grants from another department of the government. And that was part of the beauty of that SAP system, was that it weeded stuff like this out. So I make an assumption here that the story just gets better with time, that nowadays you have the doctors are all hooked up now. At least I don't see too many paper files in my doctor's offices anymore. So they're electronically submitting. And then Manitoba Health has probably got an electronic backup as well. I don't know whether you're using any AI in all of this, but I know Revenue Canada has a program that, has parameters, and if the expenses are a little too high in one area of your business, the alarm bells start coming off and the auditors start showing up at your office. So if they have a system like that for many years now, presumably you have something like that too. So not, understanding how it totally works, I just wanted to know what your comments would be about that. Like, are things improving over where they were before?
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Health Seniors and Long-Term Care is using a system to receive the billings and then review them. So the Insured Benefits Unit that manages the billings work on a completely electronic system. And based on that review, the payments are issued. With respect to the audit review, we would definitely in the future benefit from AI. There is, in fact, a lot of great software out there that allows databases to, run and identify any problems or inconsistencies with respect to the billings and generate a report in a fraction of the time that humans and actual auditors can do. So we are looking into and looking forward to being able to use more AI in the future.
MLA Malloy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to know at this point, is 100% of the physicians on electronic systems now, or there must be some outliers somewhere in the province that are still paper-based? Yes or no?
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
My understanding is all of the billings are electronic. There is no manual paperwork, but the process of audit, where we receive the detailed files and physician's notes, is a fairly manual process. It's requested from the physicians, and they provide the information on, scanned and upload manner, with still requiring the auditors to look at them individually.
We have a virtual member who wishes to ask a question, so I will ask Emily Brar to please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome to the Chair. My question is regarding one of the findings of the report that talks about the lack of structured training program for staff. So my question is, what has changed since the report came out? Is there any structured training program available now? If so, how it has impacted the system?
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Thank you. TBS has developed and implemented a standardized training program for audit staff that are responsible for the physician's audits. The program covers the full audit cycle, technical and practical aspects of the risk-based audit approach, fee-for-service contract requirements. You can appreciate the audit staff needs to understand the fee-for-service schedule really well in order to establish whether the billings are appropriate, and key deliverables outlined in the Manitoba Physician's Manual. So it's a training on both the Physician's Manual and fee-for-service tariffs, but also professionally on the audit cycle, the technical and practical aspects of the risk-based audit approach. To support the consistency and procedural fairness, TBS has also created standardized templates for each stage of the audit process. So all of the audits are documented in the same way with the same type of information and backups. They guide audit execution, but also serve as effective training tools, allowing the auditors, new auditors, during the onboarding and educational process.
Emily Brar, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a follow-up on the same, but I have another point that I wanted to clarify. The report noticed that the overpayments were rarely collected wherever they were found. What was the reason why the overpayments were not collected?
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
The fees were not cleared because, first of all, the findings were at a lower level. The previous audit approach, when the Auditor General completed the audit, was based on random sampling, and you can appreciate over 35 million, 30 million transactions for a very high number of physicians, over 3,000 physicians. Random sampling does not necessarily yield exceptions and findings that are material. So the findings were not material at the first place. Secondly, the risk-based approach allows us to focus on areas that have the more higher likelihood of finding irregularities, like, a physician billing, for example, 200 patients a day, or billing patients on a whole day type of approach. So because the unit is looking at higher risk areas at this time, the findings are higher. With respect to the ability to collect, previously the authority of the inspectors to audit the claims and the minister's authority to make a determination on overpayments based on audit findings was not cleared. Back in 2021, the Regional Health Authorities Amendment Act, and formerly Bill 10, received royal assent, and the act enabled the department, the audit unit, to pursue the overpayments on behalf of the minister. Benefit of the audit is, the change in legislation is physicians now have two choices. They either pay or they go to the arbitration route. That's very clear with respect to the agreements.
One final question for you, Madam Secretary, from the chair. This obviously focused on physician billing, very significant part of the Department of Health, but probably more broadly in government. There are other examples where there are significant billings into government. Does the unit in Treasury Board audit other significant areas of billing coming into government, and could you provide some examples of what those are? Madam Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Internal Audit Division performs a risk analysis on an annual basis and looks at different aspects of the organizational, operational, and financial risks that need to be audited. And that audit plan is approved by the Treasury Board Audit Committee and overseen. The audits are overseen by the TBAC. So if there are any areas other than physicians' billings, that would come through the work plan of the Internal Audit Department.
Seeing no other questions or comments, I'll now put the question on the Physicians' Billings Report and chapters. Shall the Auditor General's Report Physicians' Billings dated January 2021 pass? This report is accordingly passed. Does the committee agree to complete consideration of the chapter Physicians' Billings within the Auditor General's report, follow-up of previously issued recommendations dated February 2024. This chapter is accordingly completed for consideration. Does the committee agree to complete consideration of the chapter Physicians' Billings within the Auditor General's report? Follow-up of previously issued recommendations dated February 2025. This chapter is accordingly completed for consideration. I wonder if there's a will to reconsider the time that the committee had agreed to sit to. It had agreed to sit for 1 hour, then reconsider, as we're about to enter into the consideration of a new report by the Auditor General. I am open to further consideration on how long the committee will sit. MLA Malloway.
Mr. Chair, I suggest we sit for another 30 minutes beyond the 10, so another 40 minutes from now.
Emily Malloway suggesting that we sit for an additional 40 minutes from the current time. Is that agreed upon? It is agreed upon. We will now consider the report and chapter on automatic vehicle location management systems. Does the Auditor General wish to make an opening statement? The Auditor General.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce a staff member I have with me today with respect to this report. Today I am joined by Grant Vokes, who is the engagement leader on this audit. Mr. Chair, in 2018, the government approved a cross-government monitoring and reporting system of its light-duty fleet vehicles. This included the installation of automatic vehicle location, or AVL, devices on all fleet vehicles and the use of the related data. AVL devices transmit vehicle information such as speed and location to a cloud server. Some of the goals of this program were to increase the safety of employees, find ways to reduce environmental impacts, and find operational and financial efficiencies. In this audit, we set out to determine whether the AVL data from the fleet vehicles was being used to maximize operational and financial efficiencies. Mr. Chair, to hold drivers accountable for their driving behavior, expectations should be clearly defined and communicated. Likewise, if entity staff are expected to monitor AVL data, they need to know what constitutes driver noncompliance. We found policies did not clearly define expected driver behavior, nor was there a universal definition for driver noncompliance. The AVL policy, for example, gave no threshold for how far above the posted speed limit was considered noncompliant behavior. Many entities reported regular monitoring AVL data and identifying instances of noncompliant driver behavior. For example, a monitoring report used by one department showed 188 speeding incidents for the same vehicle in a 1-month period. Although the data monitoring showed noncompliance, there were no clear consequences for noncompliance. As well, minimal follow-up and remedial actions were taken when noncompliant behavior was found. In addition, we found that there was no central authority to ensure the program achieved the intended financial and operational efficiencies. Lastly, there was no reporting process to enable central monitoring, nor was there any public reporting or documentation of efficiencies gained through the implementation of the AVL devices. This report includes 8 recommendations to improve monitoring and follow-up actions for driver noncompliance, as well as establishing stronger oversight and reporting mechanisms for the program. I encourage Treasury Board Secretariat to work with all departments and agencies with fleet vehicles to act on these recommendations and resolve the risks identified by this audit. I'd like to thank the many government officials and staff that we met with during our audit for their cooperation and assistance, and I'd like to thank my audit team for their hard work in completing the report. Thank you.
Thank the Auditor General for their opening statement and for their and their office's work on this report. Does the Secretary to the Treasury Board wish to make an opening statement and introduce any further staff that they have with them on this report?
I will, yes.
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
The automatic vehicle location management has been around since 2018, and the report dated June 2021 examined the use of the AVL information from vehicle and equipment management agencies, fleet vehicles, for maximizing operational and financial efficiencies. The AG report resulted in a total of 8 recommendations, 3 recommendations to core government entities, and that includes spatial operating agencies, Department of Families, Transportation and Infrastructure, and Environment and Climate Change that has a high number of vehicles. Taken as samples, and 4 recommendations to the Treasury Board Secretariat as a central agency to serve as the information collection and follow-up oversight role. 3 of the 8 recommendations were implemented as of September 30th, but work is in progress for the remaining 5 recommendations. VEMA, the former Vehicle and Equipment Management Agency, which was a spatial operating agency, has now folded into the core government under the Public Service Delivery Division, and now is called Fleet Management Services. They provide government departments, agencies, and crown corporations with fleet vehicles, and their reorganization into the core government will allow them to have better central tracking, along with other benefits on the AVL issue, better central tracking and oversight. So I'd like to say the responsibility for oversight of the AVL, the recommendations previously directed to TBS, is now assumed by the Public Service Delivery Fleet Management Division.
Thank you to the Secretary of the Treasury Board. The floor is open for question for members of the committee. Members of the committee have questions. Emily Owasco.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm just sort of wondering if, and this is sort of to you for a question, are we going to go per recommendation, or do you want to go global?
I'd suggest we go global. I think it's typically easier for members, unless I'm at the will of the committee. Agreed. Global discussion. Emily Owasco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank everybody for attending tonight. So on recommendation number 2, this is the follow-up report comment regarding recommendation number 2. So could the department elaborate on the reasons for this gap on not following up on the idling incidents and outlining the plan to ensure comprehensive follow-up on all identified non-compliance, including idling by this department, Transportation and Infrastructure Department?
Secretary of the Treasury Board.
I'm going to request Sean Savage to respond.
Mr. Savage.
Thank you. So we continue to monitor and manage idling. Idling obviously has a number of complexities in terms of the program delivery and the responsibilities that they have in managing their programs. Things like seasonal conditions are of importance when we're dealing and addressing idling. Working on roadsides which require batteries to be charged to manage their emergency lighting and their cautionary lighting. So again, it is something that we acknowledge is prone to improvement, but obviously considering there's 1,897 units with AVL devices across government and the breadth of services that it provides, there's a number of issues and complexities that we'll have to address on a case-by-case basis. So we continue to progress that conversation across government, acknowledging some limitations, but are committed to reducing government's carbon footprint.
Thank you for your response. Emily Wasco, follow-up? No further follow-up from Mr. Wasco. Emily De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question centers around recommendation 7. I'm wondering what progress has been made in establishing the routine collection of standardized department AVL information by the Treasury Board Secretariat, as outlined previously in recommendation 6, just before it.
Mr. Savage.
Okay, sorry. We've made significant progress in the centralization of collection of data. So all of that information now flows into a centralized database. It is then in turn reported quarterly to the deputy ministers of each respective department alongside TBS. That information then is spawned upon conversations in addressing improvements, creating accountabilities, and ensuring that these vehicles are being used as effectively and efficiently as possible.
Follow-up by Emily De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so follow-up to that is, when can the first comprehensive government-wide analysis of these changes in driver behavior be expected? And what will the key performance indicators included in the analysis be as well? And maybe if if the secretary to the treasurer, Treasury Board is able to also maybe share some insights gained.
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
We've been monitoring the changes in speeding occurrences, idling minutes, fuel consumption, and GHG emissions over the past 5 years. I can say that total speeding occurrences have decreased by 66.3% over the past 5 years, from 2019-20 to 23-24. That's last year we have data for. Total over idling minutes, unfortunately, has a small decrease, only 4.2%, because of the nature of the use of the different vehicles, the cold climate, and some of the construction-related, transportation-related idling requirements. The decrease in that has only been 4.2%. The fuel consumption has a significant decrease, a 9% decrease over a 5-year period based on liters. And finally, total GHG emissions have decreased by 12.1% since the implementation of the tracking.
Further questions? Emily Malloy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you say there's 1,800 units currently under this ABL supervision. So what's the total number of units that the government has, and why are the rest of them not on that system? Like, what's the difference between these vehicles, these 1,800, and the rest of the ones that you've got?
Mr. Savage.
So the 1,897 will represent core government, but we also provide services to summary government and external clients. Those entities are not subject to the GMA, the General Manual of Administration, government's overarching policy documents. So we have no ability to create an enforcement or a contractual obligation, if you will, with those other clients beyond core government. So for the purposes of the AVL program, we're really speaking to core government, but acknowledging this, the fleet of 2,600 units has roughly 1,900 core units. The remaining are summary government.
Follow-up, Mr. Malloway.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So then, are we getting good value for this? I'm assuming this ABL costs money to acquire and to process and to keep track of and so on. What sort of results are we gaining? I mean, is it worth the expense to be doing this?
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
The cost of the program is approximately $600,000 annually to operate, but the program pays for itself for reasons outside of the fuel savings or, the reduce speeding occurrences. It really encourages driver safety, safety of our own staff. It encourages the improvement of the government's reputation in cases where the driver may be misusing the vehicle. But also the data set is very comprehensive and helps us for future planning and acquisition of vehicles. Who is driving how long? Are they driving in a small area or are they driving over a more lengthy area? Which areas are targets for, or which type of units are targets for future electrification or going hybrid rather than going with traditional fuels. So it's a great data analysis tool for future purchases, future planning of what type of vehicles to purchase and who gets to use a vehicle, and so the real value is the data value. But there's certainly a lot of value in reduced fuel costs and infringements.
Mr. Malloy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you know, the vehicle manufacturers for the last 10 years or so installed their own monitoring devices, right, in the vehicles. And then now they all have readers available. How does this differ with the program that you got, and how does it kind of integrate into the car or into the system?
Mr. Savage?
So the manufacturers are, as of late, introducing AVL technology in the vehicles. It hasn't fully matured, and obviously with a fleet that is as broad as ours is, it's something that we're providing consideration to. There's two components to it. There's the hardware component, the actual physical device, as well as the software, the technology, and the back-end systems. So there may be opportunity in the future to integrate the software with the manufacturer-based platform or the hardware, but we're not quite there yet, acknowledging that our fleet is only replaced in a secular fashion.
One question I have for you regarding expectations for employees. And so you indicated that there was a reduction in those who were speeding after this technology was put onto the VIMA vehicles. Now, there probably didn't need to be a department expectation on that. People know what the speed limit is, and when they know they're being monitored, they probably self-regulate somewhat as a result of that. Idling might be more challenging, not just because of the weather, as you mentioned, but it might be difficult to know exactly what the expectation is for idling of a vehicle. So to what extent has there been common across the departments, not that every department's the same, and there's a difference between heavy and light vehicles, but what are the common expectations for government employees using VIMA vehicles? And is there follow-up with the individual employees if those expectations aren't met? Secretary to the Treasury Board.
I'm going to ask Mr. Savage to respond.
Thank you. Mr. Savage?
Yeah, so the policy framework provides a fairly robust set of expectations for government employees. We do have a fleet vehicle eligibility checklist, which each employee who uses a fleet vehicle has to sign. And within the checklist has a number of policies that they need to read through and ensure that they commit to understanding their obligations. As it deals with the remediation component, those matters are addressed individually by department in the same fashion that other human resource investigations or employee performance issues would be addressed. So we are providing, again, a standardized or templated expectation. However, the remediation conversations are really a byproduct of the individual circumstances, the severity or egregiousness of the infraction, as well as any outlying, human resource concerns that that employee may or may not have on record.
Thank you for that response. The information is collected by the technology. I'm assuming it's available by some sort of a dashboard or some sort of way, so it's already collected. Then it's up to the departments to make a decision on analyzing and what to do with it. But that information would be available to the public through Freedom of Information, would it not? Is this already collected? Secretary to the Treasury Board.
I believe it would, under FIPA.
Thank you. Other questions? Emily Wasco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to the Secretary. So going through the recommendations that are there, there's still a few of them that are in progress. Forgive me if they have already answered this question, but what is the timeline to have all these recommendations implemented?
Secretary to the Treasury Board.
Thank you. With respect to the Auditor General's recommendations, they are considered implemented when the Auditor General is fully satisfied that they're implemented. So they may be at various stages of completion, but there may be exceptions. Its implementation date is the Auditor General's assessment of whether they are fully complied with.
Question regarding, and maybe you answered this, and so I apologize if I missed it, but you made special recognition of the issues of speeding and idling, the issues of after-use hours for the vehicles, which I'm assuming was intended to try to mitigate or reduce the vehicles that are being used inappropriately, maybe on a personal basis, that were government issued vehicles for government purposes. Do you have data on that to the extent that after-use usage inappropriately is being curtailed? Mr. Savage.
So we do continue to monitor the use of vehicles for after-hours purposes. There is government provision for the use of these vehicles after hours. However, there are a number of complexities to trying to manage after hours utilization, recognizing that government isn't an 8 to 5 business. There are a lot of program areas that are responsible for program delivery after hours. There are considerations with labor relations in consultation with the union in terms of monitoring employees for after hours use of assets. So again, we acknowledge that there's some progress to be made in those conversations, but we continue to work towards improving the monitoring of after hours use.
Thank you for the response. Are there further questions from the committee members? Seeing no further questions or hearing other comments, I'll open the question on the automatic vehicle location management system report and chapter. Shall the Auditor General's report automatic vehicle location management systems dated June 2021 pass? Pass. The report is accordingly passed. Does the committee agree to complete consideration of the chapter automatic vehicle location management systems within the Auditor General's report? Follow-up of previously issued recommendations dated February 2024. This chapter is accordingly completed for consideration. Before the committee rises, I'd like to ask the members, please leave behind copies of your report so that they may be used again for future meetings or properly recycled. The hour now being 7:45. What is the will of the committee? Committee rise. Committee rise.